mixing the tuna and seasonings, his arm going around and around in the bowl. At one point, he said, all right, kid, throw in the mayo. So I'm throwing in the big fat jars of mayonnaise. He keeps mixing it with his hairy arm in the bowl. I'm saying to myself, some of the hair's got to be in the tuna. Of course, his cigarette ashes were falling from his mouth, too. So that's when I decided to take my chances and say something. I said, Al, what about the ashes getting in there? He said, never mind, kid, it gives it flavor. See, that was those days. No one died from it. Maybe the hair and the ashes were somewhat protective. I don't know. Who knows? Today, who knows? Everything's so safe you can die from it. See the poor guys in their 30s. I don't mock them. I don't feel bad for them. I was once in my 30s. It was the worst age bracket for a man is the 30s. I'm going to tell you, explain why. In your 20s, you still think you're immortal. I got plenty of time. I don't want to think about it. I'm never going to, I'm never going to get sick. But when you hit 30, you already start, and then they start really getting down on their exercise. You see these guys running and looking at their watch while they're running, like someone's pursuing them. Mister, slow down. It's unnatural to run like that. In fact, you got to remember once in a while Mark Twain's famous statement that I get all of my exercise walking to the funerals of my more athletic friends. That's what I'd like to say to them as I drive by and see the poor guys in their 30s running for their life, looking at their watches, but I don't because I don't know them. And I'll be right back.
Armstrong and Getty.
They're not bullies with a microphone.
Weekday morning, 6 to 10. Talk 910 KNEW.
So the dollar is falling. It's now fallen to a 2009 low, and the jerks in the White House are spending it as fast as they can. The communists are saying your deficits are unsupportable. Pelosi is taking more Botox. Geithner is taking more pox. U.S. revokes visas for Honduran officials, which means they're taking the side of the communist leader of Honduras, who they want back in power. Can't you put two and two together that we've had a coup in America? I mean, we're still free because it hasn't yet taken fully, it hasn't fully taken hold yet. When would you have ever expected that your government would take the same side as Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez, and the dictator of Honduras who was thrown out by his own people, his own Supreme Court, and his own military? When would you ever think you'd wake up to the day that Hillary Clinton and President Obama would take the side of a dictator thrown out by their own country? When would the U.S. revoke the visa for legitimate Honduran officials? Would you believe it? Unless you come to understand that there's been a coup in the United States of America, which is what I think has happened. They're not going to get up and scream, we've taken over, we have tanks surrounding the White House, anyone comes near. That's not how it's working. If you own the press, which they do, you can get away with a coup, a soft coup, and not even tell the people that they've been encircled. You want me to do politics there? I just did politics. Now can I get back to the serious stuff of talk? What am I going to do about it? We have an illegitimate group of people doing this to us. Again, USA and British envoys attempting to open talks with the Taliban. Would you ever expect that would happen in your recent life? You're going to talk now with the worst enemy, the enemy that blew up your soldiers, chopped people's heads off, sawed off their heads while chanting to Allah. Now you're going to turn him into your collaborator? The world is upside down. Makes you wonder who's in the White House. Makes you wonder who's on whose side. Makes you wonder who is talking to who. Makes you wonder which side they're on. And you wonder why there's hundreds of thousands of people into this birther thing. You know, the issue is not so much that they doubt his place of birth. They doubt him and his loyalties. That's the subtext of the whole birther issue of is Obama an American citizen. Let's say that's not the issue per se. The issue is, where do his loyalties lie? Now, why would so many people on the internet question where Obama's loyalties lie? Why do they fear that he's not patriotic? Why do they sense that he's not on the side of America? Well, you don't have to go back further than his trip to the world, where he got on his hands and knees, basically, and apologized for America, said we were no good, we apologize. Going to the king of Saudi Arabia twice, the last time bending over and receiving some gold bling around his neck like a rap star rather than a president. These things worry people. They're not blind. And that makes them, a lot of them are conspiracy theorists, yes. A lot of them say that this guy is a stealth enemy of America. So, in other words, the issue of his birth and where he was born per se, I don't care how many different ways the mainstream media says you're crazy. Let's go into the background of that. It's that people are worried about the man's loyalty, and they're not allowed to say it. So they're going at him any way they can. And therefore, the real issue is, where do his loyalties lie? If a man will turn America into a socialist nation through the takeover of the banks, through the takeover of the financial sector, through the busting out of General Motors, through the busting out of the economy in general, through the attempt to make America's healthcare system, which is still, for all its flaws, the best in the world, incidentally, the best in the world. You know that the uninsured right now still receive 60 to 70% of the same health care that the insured do. Did you know that? Let me repeat that. The uninsured in this country receive 60 to 70% of the same health care that the insured do. So what Obama wants to do is take the uninsured and give them the other 40 to 30 to 40% of equivalent in health care that you get if you're insured. Who's going to pay for it? You are, you schmuck. You're going to pay through exorbitant taxation, which will further damage the economy. Now, how can you not get this across to these pinheads, or microcephalics, if you wish, if you want to use a bigger word, in the White House? How can you not get it across to these people? Why are they so dense that the country understands that they're on the wrong path here? Why is Rahm Emanuel trying to ram this through? Who is Rahm Emanuel to do this to the country? How did one man gain so much power? What are his origins? What are his roots? What does he really want to do? Which country is he loyal to? This is what's going on the internet. Why? Why is healthcare so important to Rahm Emanuel? Why is healthcare so important to this administration? What does this have to do with healthcare? Does it have as much to do with healthcare as it does to do with health scare? Why are they using health scare to get health care? Why is it so important to them? You think it's because they're so compassionate for the poor? It's because they want to control you from cradle to grave. I told you that before. Remember under Hillary Care, where we learned that it would take up 1/3 of the economy? The plan that Obama put forward will take over 50% of the economy. But more importantly, they will control you from cradle to grave with a federal health care system where they will know what prescriptions you're on. They'll have access to your psychiatric or psychological records. With the press of a button, a degenerate inside one of the administrations could find out what your psychological weaknesses are, what medications you are on, and they can manipulate you. But you don't see that if you're a stark true believer. One of the idiot, unwashed morons on the left who says, yay, single-payer health care. Watch out, my friends. You're as much a target of this group of gangsters as anybody else. Make no mistake about it.
Savage. Michael Savage. Afternoons 3 to 7 on Talk 910 KNEW and online at 910KNEW.com.